What would you do if everything you built, everything you stood for was torn away in a single moment? Bruce Lee stands in the quiet of his dojo at dawn sunlight, cutting through wooden floors like golden blades, his wife Stella sleeping upstairs. Their life together, a masterpiece of balance, harmony carved from years of devotion, dedication to the art of living, not just the art of fighting. The morning ritual never changes, tea brewed in silence from leaves imported from China, meditation on the wooden platform his grandfather built, movements flowing like water, like wind, like the philosophy he spent decades perfecting, teaching to students who come seeking strength but leave understanding peace. Bruce practices his forms, each strike precise as a surgeon's blade, each block deliberate as a chess master's move. But today something feels different. The air itself seems to hold its breath, waiting for catastrophe, anticipating the storm that will reshape everything. The birds outside have stopped singing, the usual morning traffic sounds muffled, even the sunlight seems hesitant, reluctant to illuminate what's coming. The phone rings sharp, violent, shattering the morning peace like a hammer through glass, destroying the sanctuary. He's built the quiet world where love lives, where Stella's laughter echoes, where their future waits unwritten. Bruce pauses mid-movement, his body still as stone carved from marble, but his mind already calculating who calls at this hour, what emergency demands attention, what storm approaches his sanctuary, what darkness seeks to enter their light. He answers on the third ring, his voice steady, as always, controlled, measured, the same tone he uses with students, with reporters, with the world that watches. His every move, hello. The voice on the other end is mechanical, distorted through electronic filters, processed through technology, meant to hide, to obscure, to protect cowards who strike from shadows. We have your wife. We know who you are. We know what you can do, but this isn't about fighting. This is about money, pure and simple business, not personal. Bruce hand tightens on the receiver, his knuckles white against black plastic, tendons standing out like steel cables, veins rising like rivers of controlled fury. Where is she? The voice laughs, a sound like breaking glass, like nails on concrete, like death approaching on silent feet, like everything beautiful being destroyed by those who understand nothing, create nothing, preserve nothing. You have 24 hours, $1 million cash, no police, no tricks, no heroes, no cavalry riding to save the day, or she disappears forever, like she never existed, like your love was just a dream. The line goes dead. Bruce stands motionless in the morning light, but inside him something ancient awakens, not the performer who dances for cameras, not the teacher who guides students, not the philosopher who speaks of balance, not the man who learned to control his power, the warrior, the killer, the predator, who learned violence in back alleys before fame softened his edges, before Hollywood taught him to pull punches, before he discovered mercy was a luxury, not a necessity. He sets the phone down with infinite care, each movement precise, controlled, deadly. Like placing a live grenade on delicate silk, like handling explosives, like preparing for war. Upstairs, their bedroom tells the story, coffee cup half empty on the nightstand, still warm to the touch, steam rising in lazy spirals, book open to page 43, her reading glasses folded neatly beside it, everything exactly as Stella left it except for the terrible absence, where warmth used to be, where love used to live. The window hangs open, screen cut clean with surgical precision, no jagged edges, no signs of struggle, no broken furniture, no evidence of violence, just the hollow echo of vanished life, professional work, careful planning, cold calculation. These aren't amateurs, these aren't desperate criminals, these are professionals who study their targets, who plan their moves, who understand exactly what they're stealing and exactly what they're unleashing. Bruce touches the pillow where her head rested, still holds the faint scent of her perfume, jasmine and vanilla, the same fragrance she wore the night they first met, the night they first kissed, the night she said yes to forever. Now it smells like fear, like violation, like war. He closes his eyes, breathes deep, centers himself the way his first master taught him in the temple courtyards of his youth, where monks spoke of inner peace while teaching outer destruction. But this time the calm doesn't come, this time the meditation crumbles, this time there is only rage, pure and focused as a blade, sharp as justice, deadly as love betrayed. The kidnappers think they know Bruce Lee, the actor who pulls his punches, the legend who performs for audiences, the man who speaks of peace while demonstrating violence for entertainment, for show, for money. They don't know the real warrior, the one who fought when fighting meant survival, who killed when killing was mercy, who learned that sometimes the only way to preserve life is to take it swiftly, completely, Without hesitation, Bruce walks to his private study, unlocks a drawer that hasn't been opened in years. Inside lies something he swore he'd never use again, never think about again, never become again. A photograph, black and white, edges yellow with age, showing a younger Bruce standing over 5 men, all of them broken, all of them bleeding. All of them learning too late what happens when you threaten what a warrior loves. The photograph from Hong Kong, from before the movies, before the fame, before he learned to pull his punches, before he discovered mercy, before he became civilized. His hands shake as he holds it, not from fear, but from the effort of holding back the storm building inside him, the hurricane of violence, spinning faster with each heartbeat, each breath, each second that passes, without Stella's voice, without her touch. Without her safety. 24 hours, they said. They have no idea how much damage one man can do in 24 hours when that man has nothing left to lose and everything to prove. Bruce Lee sets the photograph on his desk, picks up his car keys, and walks toward the door, toward the hunt, toward the reckoning, toward becoming the weapon he swore he'd never be again. The sun is fully up now, Los Angeles stretching endlessly before him, 8 million people, countless hiding places, infinite possibilities. But finite time. 24 hours to find his wife, to save his world, to become the warrior he swore he'd never be again. The hunt begins now. Bruce Lee's car cuts through Los Angeles traffic like a blade through silk, his hands steady on the wheel, but his mind racing, calculating possibilities, analyzing patterns, hunting for threads in the web of his wife's disappearance. The kidnappers made one mistake. They called from somewhere, and somewhere has a location, a signature, a digital fingerprint waiting to be traced. Bruce pulls into the parking lot of Wong's Electronics, a small shop tucked between a dry cleaner and a taco stand where his old friend Vaughn Wong builds devices the government doesn't want to know about. The bell chimes as Bruce enters, but Vaughn doesn't look up from the circuit board spread across his workbench, soldering iron dancing like a conductor's bat. And you look like death, Vaughn says without turning his voice, carrying the weight of 40 years' friendship. What happened? They took Stella. Bruce's words fall like stones into still water, creating ripples that will never stop. Vaughn's hand freezes, the soldering iron hovering over delicate components, his face reflected in the magnifying glass. Suddenly older, suddenly tired. Professional job. Bruce continues, knew exactly when to strike, exactly how to get in, exactly what to say. These aren't street criminals, these are specialists. Vaughn sets down his tools, turns to face his old friend, seeing something in Bruce's eyes that hasn't been there for 20 years, something cold, something final, something that promises blood and reckoning. What do you need? The call came through standard phone lines, but the voice was processed, filtered through equipment that costs serious money. Can you trace it? Vaughn nods slowly, understanding the implications. The darkness. Bruce is walking into the man he's about to become again. Have contacts, people who owe favors, people who understand that some things are more important than rules. Bruce watches his friend work, fingers flying across keyboards, making calls in languages that sound like mathematics, accessing systems that officially don't exist. The phone system remembers everything, Vaughn explains, even when people think they're being clever. Every call leaves traces, digital breadcrumbs leading back to the source. 20 minutes pass, then 30, then 40. Bruce paces the small shop like a caged tiger, energy building, pressure mounting, violence waiting for direction. Found it. Vaughn's voice cuts through the electronic hum. Call originated from a payphone in Chinatown, corner of Hill and Alpine, outside the Golden Dragon restaurant. Bruce is already moving toward the door, but Vaughn's voice stops him. Cold. Bruce, there's something else. The call was made exactly 27 minutes after your wife disappeared. These people know your neighborhood, your schedule, your habits. They've been watching for weeks. The implications hit Bruce like a physical blow. Strangers studying Stella, learning her patterns, planning her capture, violating their privacy, their sanctuary, their love. Who else knows about this? Nobody. Vaughn's voice is granite, solid and unbreakable. The trace never happened. The records don't exist. You were never here. Bruce nods, once understanding the gift his friend has given him, the deniability, the clean slate, the freedom to act without consequences and need weapons, not guns. Something quieter, something personal. Vaughn disappears into the back room, returns with a leather case, old and worn like something carried through decades of secrets. Inside are instruments that look like tools, but sing with deadly purpose. Piano wire thin, as hair blades sharp, as whispers, devices that stop hearts without leaving marks. Bruce selects what he needs, his hands moving with muscle memory from years he's tried to forget, When survival meant being more dangerous than those who hunted him, the Golden Dragon restaurant sits on the corner exactly where Vaughn said, red lanterns swaying in the afternoon breeze like drops of blood against the pale sky. Bruce parks across the street, studies the payphone, the angles of approach, the escape, routes the way shadows fall between buildings. An old man sweeps the sidewalk near the restaurant, his movements methodical, practiced, but his eyes sharp, watching everything, recording details for later sale. Bruce approaches slowly, hands visible, posture relaxed, but ready to explode into violence at the first sign of threat. The old man looks up, his face a map of years and secrets. You're looking for the men who used the phony. It's not a question. Bruce nods, understanding that information always has a price in places like this. 3 men, the old man continues. Expensive clothes, foreign accents, European. Maybe they stayed in the black sedan while one made the call. Bruce reaches for his wallet, but the old man waves him away. No money, he says quietly. I have granddaughter same age as your wife. Some things cannot be bought, only earned. The sedan had rental plates. The old man continues, from premium car service, downtown location, and one of them had a tattoo on his left wrist, looked like a dragon eating its own tail. Bruce memorizes every detail, every word, every implication, building the profile of his enemies, understanding their methods, their origins, their weaknesses. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from. Bruce needs to know he's not alone in this hunt. The old man's information is worth more than gold. Premium car service keeps detailed records of who rents what, when, and where, and why. Bruce thanks the old man with a bow, deep and respectful, the way his grandfather taught him in the temples where honor still meant something. The hunt continues, but now Bruce has scent, has direction, has purpose, focused like a laser, deadly as judgment. Premium car service waits downtown, along with answers, along with justice, along with the next step toward bringing Stella home. The black sedan left digital footprints, credit card receipts, GPS tracking data, security camera footage, breadcrumbs leading to the wolves who think they're hunting sheep. But Bruce Lee is no sheep. He's something else entirely, something they should have feared from the beginning, something they're about to understand too late. The afternoon sun casts long shadows across the city, and in those shadows a warrior awakens fully, finally, completely. 22 hours remain, 22 hours to save his wife, to destroy his enemies, to become the weapon he was born to. Beta hunt deepens, the trail grows warmer, justice approaches on silent feet. Premium car service sits in a glass tower, downtown Los Angeles, 30 floors of gleaming steel and corporate secrets where money talks and silence costs extra. Bruce Lee stands in the lobby, studying the directory, watching security cameras, tracking the flow of people in and out like water through channels, predictable, controllable, exploitable. The elevator carries him to the 15th floor, where premium car service maintains its operations behind doors marked with logos that promise discretion, luxury, and most importantly, no questions asked. The receptionist looks up from her computer screen, blonde hair, perfect smile, practiced voice, trained to soothe wealthy clients who rent cars for reasons they don't discuss. How can I help you today? Bruce approaches the desk, his movements casual, unthreatening, but his eyes scanning for security measures, escape routes, weak points in their carefully constructed professional facade. I need information about a rental yesterday. Black sedan, 3 men, European accents, one with a dragon tattoo on his left wrist. The receptionist's smile doesn't waver, but something shifts behind her eyes, recognition, or perhaps fear. I'm sorry, sir, but we don't discuss our clients' information, privacy policy. Very strict, very important to maintain trust. Bruce leans forward, his voice dropping to a whisper that carries the weight of mountains. The promise of earthquakes. My wife was kidnapped by the men who rented that car. I need their names, their addresses, their next moves, and I need them now. The receptionist's composure cracks slightly, her training warring with human sympathy, but corporate policy wins the battle. I understand your situation, but I simply cannot without proper authorization from law enforcement or a court order. Bruce studies her face, reading micro-expressions the way his master taught him to read opponents before they strike. She wants to help, but fear holds her back. Fear of losing her job, fear of breaking rules, fear of consequences. What's your name? Levi. She responds automatically, then immediately regrets the revelation, her hand moving unconsciously toward the panic button hidden beneath her desk. Levi. Bruce repeats, softly, his voice carrying warmth, unexpected kindness. You have children? The question catches her off guard, her professional mask slipping completely, revealing the woman beneath the uniform. 2 daughters, ages 7 and 9. Bruce nods slowly, understanding now the weight She carries the responsibility that shapes her choices, the love that makes her vulnerable and strong. Those men who rented the car, they're professionals who steal people. From the ones who love them right now, they have my wife in some dark place doing things I can't bear to imagine. Levi's eyes fill with tears, her hands trembling as she wrestles with conscience and consequences. In 18 hours, Bruce continues, if I don't find her, she disappears forever, becomes another statistic, another missing person, another family destroyed by men who think money makes them untouchable. The silence stretches between them, heavy with possibility and choice. I could lose my job, Levi whispers, her voice barely audible above the hum of office machinery. Bruce reaches into his jacket, retrieves a business card, places it gently on her desk. That's my lawyer, he says quietly. If you help me and face consequences, he'll make sure you never work again because you won't need to. Levi stares at the card, reading the name of the most expensive attorney in Los Angeles, the man who represents people with power, real power, the kind that bends rules and breaks enemies. 5 minutes later, Bruce has everything: names, addresses, credit card information, rental agreements, GPS tracking data from the sedan's built-in navigation system. Jensen, Mueller, Payton, Volkov, Armstrong, Kozlov, all with addresses in European capitals, all with diplomatic passports, all with histories that officially don't exist. The GPS data tells a story of careful reconnaissance, driving past Bruce's house 17 times over 3 weeks, studying patterns, learning schedules, preparing for the strike. But more importantly, it shows their current location, a warehouse in San Pedro near the docks, where ships arrive from countries that don't ask questions about cargo. As Bruce leaves premium car service, Levi calls after him, her voice carrying desperate hope. Bring her home, she says. Bring your wife home. Bruce nods, once understanding the weight of her trust, the risk she's taken, the faith she's placed in his ability to be more than human, to be justice incarnate. The warehouse district sprawls along the harbor like a concrete cancer, buildings that hide shipments and secrets, and sometimes people who've been stolen from their lives. Bruce drives through the industrial maze, following GPS coordinates toward the building where 3 Europeans with diplomatic immunity think they're safe, think they're untouchable, think they understand what they're dealing with. They re wrong on all counts. The warehouse sits between 2 larger buildings, unremarkable, anonymous, the kind of place where screams echo unheard, where people vanish without trace. Bruce parks 6 blocks away, leaves his car in the shadows between shipping containers, tall as buildings, silent as tombs. He moves through the concrete jungle, like smoke, like death, like the weapon he was trained to be before Hollywood taught him to perform instead of kill. The warehouse has 3 entrances, 12 windows, 4 ventilation shafts, 2 loading docks, and approximately 17 ways to get inside without being seen. Bruce circles the building, mapping every approach, every angle, every shadow that might hide his wife or her captors. Through a grimy window, he sees movement, figures in expensive suits standing around something, someone lying still, too still on a concrete floor. Stella, his wife, unconscious, breathing, but motionless, surrounded by men who think kidnapping is just business, just money, just another transaction. Bruce Lee closes his eyes, takes one deep breath, and prepares to show them exactly how wrong they are. The warehouse is about to become a tomb for everyone inside except the woman he loves more than life, more than peace, more than mercy. 17 hours remain, 17 hours to save Stella, to destroy her captors, to become the storm that washes away everything in its path. The final approach begins now. Bruce Lee crouches in the shadows between rusted shipping containers, his body perfectly still, but his mind racing, calculating angles, timing movements, counting heartbeats, until violence erupts through the warehouse window. He watches 3 men circle his unconscious wife, like vultures around fresh carrion. Their movements, casual, confident, arrogant. They think they hold all the cards, all the power, all the advantages. Professional kidnappers with diplomatic immunity, untouchable by law, unreachable by justice. They about to learn that some laws run deeper than governments, older than nations, written in blood and carved in bone. Jensen Mueller, the tall one with silver hair, checks his expensive watch, probably counting down to the ransom deadline, to the moment when Bruce Lee becomes a broken man begging for mercy. Payton, Volkov, stocky and scarred, leans against a wooden crate, smoking a cigarette, the ember glowing like a tiny star in the warehouse darkness, ash falling like snow onto concrete, stained with other people's tears. Armstrong, Kozlov, the one with the dragon tattoo, eating its own tail wrapped around his wrist like a promise of self-destruction, paces back and Fourth, energy, barely contained violence, waiting for permission. Bruce studies each man, memorizing their movements, their habits. There tells the way Jensen favors his left leg, probably an old injury that will slow him down when running becomes his only option. The way Peyton holds his cigarette between the same fingers that probably pulled triggers in places where wars never officially happened, where people died, without making headlines. The way Armstrong's hand keeps moving to the small of his back, where a concealed weapon waits beneath expensive fabric insurance against the unexpected, the unthinkable, the impossible. But Bruce Lee has built his life on making the impossible look effortless, turning the unthinkable into reality, becoming the unexpected. When the world needs a miracle, Stella lies motionless on a sleeping bag they've placed on the warehouse floor, her chest rising and falling with steady breaths, sedated but alive, unconscious but breathing, taken but not broken yet. Bruce memorizes every detail of her position, the distance between her body and the nearest exit, the obstacles he'll need to navigate while carrying her to safety. The warehouse tells its own story of preparation and planning, camping chairs arranged in a circle, folding table covered with maps and photographs of Bruce's neighborhood, his daily routines, his vulnerabilities that he been watching for months, learning his patterns, studying his weaknesses, preparing for this moment when they could strike with surgical precision and disappear like smoke. But they made one critical error in their calculations, one fatal flaw in their perfect plan. They assumed Bruce Lee, the actor, the performer, the man who pulls punches for cameras, would be the same as Bruce Lee, the warrior, the killer, the weapon forged in violence and tempered by necessity. The warehouse door opens with a rusty screech, and a fourth man enters, someone Bruce doesn't recognize, tall and thin with eyes like winter and hands that never stop moving, nervous energy or perhaps guilty conscience. This must be the local contact, the one who provided intelligence about Bruce's life, his schedule, his blind spots, the traitor who sold information to foreign killers for pieces of Silver Cross. Speaks in accented English, his voice carrying the authority of someone who's given orders that ended lives, changed borders, toppled governments. The money transfer is confirmed. He tells the others our employer is satisfied with the timeline. The execution, the results. Bruce jaw tightens, understanding now that this isn't just about ransom, isn't just about money. This is something larger, more dangerous, more personal. Someone wants Bruce Lee destroyed, not just financially, but completely. His reputation, his peace of mind, his ability to sleep at night without wondering if the darkness holds more enemies, more threats, more reasons to become the weapon he's tried to abandon. The four men discuss logistics like businessmen planning a merger. Voices calm, professional, detached, as if Stella's life is just another line item on a spreadsheet. They talk about extraction routes, backup plans, elimination protocols, the clinical language of people who've reduced human suffering to operational efficiency. Bruce has heard enough, seen enough, learned enough to understand exactly what he's dealing with and exactly what he needs to do. He retreats through the shadows back to his car, where he opens the leather case Vaughn gave him and begins his own preparation, his own planning, his own protocol for what comes next. The weapons feel familiar in his hands, like old friends returning from a long journey. Piano wire that cuts through bone and cartilage with equal ease, ceramic blades invisible to metal detectors, sharp enough to split molecules, quiet enough to kill, without sound. Pressure point devices that stop hearts, collapse lungs, sever spinal cords with touches light as butterfly wings, deadly as cobra strikes. Bruce assembles his arsenal with the same precision he once used for kata, for meditation, for the peaceful arts that shaped his youth before the world taught him that sometimes peace requires violence. The sun begins to set over Los Angeles, painting the sky the color of blood. The color of endings, the color of justice, finally arriving after years of patience. 14 hours remain, 14 hours to save his wife, to destroy his enemies, to become once again the nightmare that haunts those who prey on the innocent. The warehouse waits in darkness, filled with men who think they're predators about to discover they're actually prey. Bruce Lee starts his car and drives toward destiny, toward reckoning, toward the moment when love becomes vengeance and mercy becomes memory. The storm approaches on silent feet, carrying lightning in its hands and thunder in its heart. Night falls over the warehouse district like a black shroud, hiding Bruce Lee as he moves through shadows toward the building where four men hold his wife. Like a trophy, like a bargaining chip, like something breakable, the industrial complex sleeps around him, But Bruce's senses are fully awake, tracking every sound, every movement, every breath of wind through rusted metal and broken dreams he approaches. From the north side, where loading docks create natural cover, where darkness pools deepest between towering containers that block moonlight and muffle sound, the warehouse glows with artificial light spilling through grimy windows, casting long rectangles of illumination across cracked asphalt where weeds grow through concrete. Like hope through despair, Bruce reaches the building's perimeter and begins his final reconnaissance, counting heartbeats through thin walls, identifying voices, mapping positions. Calculating the choreography of what comes next inside the warehouse, Jensen Muller checks his watch again. 10 hours until the deadline, 10 hours until Bruce Lee either pays or watches his world collapse. The money will never come. Jensen knows this. Has always known that ransom was never the real objective, just the pretext for something more personal, more permanent, more final. Peyton Volkov crushes his cigarette under expensive leather, his third smoke in the last hour, nervous energy bleeding through professional composure the way fear always does when death approaches. Armstrong Kozlov paces faster, now his dragon tattoo seeming to writhe in the warehouse, like the serpent devouring itself, ancient symbol of cycles, ending and beginning. Destruction and Rebirth Cross stands near the table, studying photographs of Bruce Lee's house, his dojo, his daily routines, the careful documentation of a life about to be systematically destroyed. But something has changed in the atmosphere, something subtle yet profound, like the moment before lightning strikes. The warehouse feels different, charged with possibility, heavy with approaching violence. Bruce Lee moves to the first entrance point, a ventilation shaft barely wide enough for his shoulders, but leading directly above where Stella lies unconscious. Vulnerable, surrounded by men who see her as nothing more than leverage, he removes the metal grating with surgical precision. Each screw turns slowly, silently, methodically, until the opening yawns like a mouth waiting to swallow just as the shaft extends horizontally for 15 feet, then drops straight down into the warehouse, a perfect insertion point for someone who moves like water, like smoke, like death. Bruce slides into the metal tunnel, his body flowing forward inch by inch, controlling his breathing, his heartbeat, his very existence, reducing himself to pure purpose. Below him, the four men continue their casual conversation about elimination, about covering tracks, about making Bruce Lee's death look like suicide. Grief-stricken husband unable to live without his wife, they discuss Stella's disposal with the same tone they might use to plan lunch. Clinical detachment, professional efficiency, emotional void, where human souls should exist. Bruce reaches the drop point directly above his wife's position and begins his descent using finger strength developed through decades of training, decades of discipline, decades of preparing for this moment. The warehouse floor approaches slowly, 10 feet, 9 feet, 8 feet, 7 feet close. Enough now to see Stella's face, peaceful in artificial sleep, unaware that salvation hangs above her like a guardian angel armed with ceramic blades and righteous fury. Jensen Muller walks toward the sleeping woman, his footsteps echoing off concrete walls, each step a countdown to his own destruction. He kneels beside Stella's motionless form, reaches out with fingers that have signed death warrants, broken families, destroyed lives across 3 continents. His hand moves toward her throat, checking pulse, or perhaps something more sinister. Bruce Lee drops like a stone from heaven, landing behind Jensen Muller, silent as snowfall, deadly as avalanche. The ceramic blade enters Jensen's neck at the precise angle to sever arteries without severing vocal cords, preventing screams, allowing only the soft sound of life leaving body. Jensen's eyes go wide with surprise, with recognition, with the terrible understanding that he's been hunting the wrong predator. Bruce lowers Jensen's body to the floor. With infinite care, infinite respect for the gravity of taking life, even guilty life, even life that deserves ending. Peyton Volkov stands 20 feet away, back turned, still smoking, still confident, still unaware that death has entered the warehouse. Armstrong Kozlov paces near the eastern wall, his dragon tattoo catching warehouse light, the serpent about to discover what it means to devour itself. Cross remains at the table, studying photographs, planning murders that will never happen now because Bruce Lee has crossed the threshold between man and weapon, between mercy and justice, between peace and war. 3 targets remain, 3 men who think they're predators about to learn their prey. Bruce Lee moves through the warehouse like a ghost, like A promise like death on silent feet, carrying justice in his hands and love in his heart. The real hunt begins now. Peyton Volkov turns from his cigarette, expecting to see Jensen standing guard, but finds only empty space and the growing certainty that something has gone terribly wrong. His hand moves toward the gun beneath his jacket, but finds only air as Bruce Lee materializes from the shadows. Like smoke given form and purpose, the ceramic blade slides between Peyton's ribs with surgical precision, finding the space between heartbeats, between thoughts, between his last breath and eternal silence. Peyton's cigarette falls from nerveless fingers, ember dying on concrete, like a tiny star going dark in an infinite universe. Bruce lowers the second body with the same reverence he showed the first, understanding that even monsters were once someone's children. Armstrong Kozlov continues pacing near the eastern wall, his back turned, dragon tattoo writhing in warehouse light, unaware that death stalks him from behind. But Cross looks up from his photograph, sharp eyes scanning the warehouse, sensing change in the atmosphere, predator's instinct warning him that the hunt has reversed. Where is Jensen? Cross calls out, his voice echoing off concrete walls, carrying the first note of alarm, the first crack in professional composure. Armstrong stops, pacing, hand moving instinctively to his concealed weapon, eyes searching shadows that seem suddenly deeper, more dangerous, more alive. Bruce Lee crouches beside Stella's unconscious form, checking her pulse, her breathing, her condition, relief flooding through him as he confirms she's unharmed, sedated, but whole, taken, but not broken. Her face peaceful in artificial sleep, shows no signs of violence, no marks of cruelty. Professional kidnappers keeping their merchandise undamaged until the transaction concludes. But there will be no transaction, no exchange, no ransom payment, only justice, swift and final, delivered by a husband who loves more than he fears. Cross draws his weapon, a small automatic fitted with silencer, professional equipment for professional work. Show yourself, he shouts into the warehouse darkness, his voice betraying the first hint of fear. I know you're here, Bruce Lee. I know you came for your wife, but you're too late. She's already damaged goods, used merchandise, broken toy. The lies slide off Bruce's consciousness like water off stone. Psychological warfare designed to provoke emotion, cloud judgment, force mistakes. But Bruce Lee has moved beyond emotion, beyond judgment, beyond mistakes, into the realm where warriors live, where love becomes weapon and mercy becomes memory. Armstrong Kozlov backs toward the wall, weapon drawn, eyes scanning every shadow, every corner, every possible hiding place. The warehouse suddenly feels enormous, infinite, filled with places where death might wait. But Bruce doesn't hide in shadows anymore. He steps into the light, hands empty, posture relaxed, face calm as mountain. Laycross and Armstrong both aim their weapons at his chest center, mass, professional targeting. You killed them, Cross states, not a question, but acknowledgement of professional respect. One killer recognizing another. Bruce nods, once simple confirmation, now you die. Cross continues, finger tightening on trigger. Bruce moves not quickly, but correctly, body flowing like water around obstacles that cannot be avoided, through spaces that shouldn't exist. The first bullet passes through air where Bruce stood. Microseconds before, the second finds only shadow and empty space. Bruce reaches Armstrong first, the dragon tattoo within touching distance, serpent about to devour its master. The pressure point strike collapses Armstrong's lung, stops his heart, severs his connection to life in the time between heartbeats. Cross fires again, panic replacing precision, bullets spraying wild patterns across warehouse walls. But Bruce Lee moves like music, like poetry, like violence made art. The piano wire appears in his hands as if summoned from air itself. Cross's last bullet clicks on empty chamber. His eyes go wide with recognition, with understanding, with the terrible certainty of what comes next. The wire settles around his throat, like jewelry, like decoration, like justice finally arriving. Cross drops his weapon, hands clawing at the wire, cutting into flesh, drawing blood that flows like payment for crimes committed in darkness. Bruce pulls the wire tight, watching life leave Cross's eyes the same way it left his victims across 3 continents. The warehouse falls silent except for Stella's steady breathing. 4 men lie dead around her protective circle of violence, carved from love and necessity. Bruce kneels beside his wife, touches her face gently. The same hands that just delivered death, now carrying only tenderness. Stella's eyes flutter open, drugs wearing off, consciousness returning like dawn after endless night. Bruce, her voice barely whisper, but carries more weight than thunder. Here He tells her, helping her sit up. We're going home. She looks around the warehouse, seeing the bodies, understanding, without words, what happened, what Bruce became to save her, the man she married, the peaceful philosopher, the teacher of balance temporarily set aside so the warrior could emerge. Are you hurt? She asks, not about physical wounds, but deeper injuries to the soul that come from crossing lines that cannot be uncrossed. Bruce helps her stand, her legs unsteady from sedation, but growing stronger with each moment. Exactly who I need to be, he tells her, to bring you home safe. They walk together toward the warehouse exit, leaving behind 4 bodies and the darkness that spawned them. The night air tastes like freedom, like victory, like love triumphant over evil. 8 hours remain until the original deadline, but time no longer matters. Stella is safe. The threat is ended. Justice is served. Bruce Lee can return to being teacher, philosopher, husband. The warrior can sleep again until the next time darkness threatens light. Bruce and Stella emerge from the warehouse into the cool night air. Los Angeles sprawling before them like a constellation of possibilities, freedom tasting sweeter than honey. But as they reach Bruce's car, Stella's legs give out, the sedatives still coursing through her system, her body betraying her will to walk away from nightmare. Bruce catches her before she falls, lifting her with infinite gentleness, the same hands that moments before dealt death, now cradling life. We need to get you to a hospital, he says, but Stella shakes her head weakly. No hospitals, she whispers, no police, no questions. We both know what you did in there, what you had to become. Her words carry understanding deeper than judgment, acceptance broader than fear. She knows who she married has always known. Beneath the teacher, the philosopher, the man of peace, lives something else, something necessary, something that sleeps until love is threatened. Bruce starts the engine, but before he can drive away, headlights pierce the darkness. Behind them, 3 black SUVs approaching fast, professional formation, tactical spacing. More enemies arriving for a party that's already over. Bruce jaw tightens, recognizing the vehicles, government plates, federal agencies, people who clean up messes that officially never happened. The SUVs form a perimeter around Bruce's car, blocking all escape routes except one forward through the narrow gap between warehouse and shipping container. Bruce floors the accelerator, his car shooting forward like an arrow from a bow, tires screaming against asphalt behind them. The SUVs give chase, engines roaring, spotlights sweeping the industrial maze. But Bruce Lee knows these streets, spent years filming movies in this district, learning every alley, every shortcut, every place where darkness hides secrets. The first SUV tries to ram them from behind, but Bruce cuts hard left between 2 containers, space barely wide enough for his sedan. The SUV clips the containers, spinning sideways, blocking the path for the others. 2 vehicles remain, hunting through the concrete labyrinth. Stella grips the dashboard, her knuckles white, but her voice steady. Who are they? Government cleanup crew, Bruce explains, taking another sharp turn, tires sliding on loose gravel. Someone important wanted me destroyed tonight. Those kidnappers were just the opening move. The second SUV appears ahead of them, blocking the main exit route, spotlights blazing. Bruce doesn't slow down, he accelerates straight toward the roadblock, playing chicken with federal agents who think they understand what they're dealing with. At the last second, Bruce yanks the wheel hard right, sending his car up a loading ramp onto a shipping dock above the street level. The SUV passes beneath them, confused, disoriented, momentarily lost. Bruce drives along the elevated dock toward another ramp leading down to a different street, escape route carved from desperation and intimate knowledge of terrain. But the third SUV waits below, perfectly positioned, engines running, weapons visible through tinted windows, professional ambush, carefully coordinated, years of training and planning. Bruce stops his car at the edge of the dock, 20 feet above the waiting vehicle. In the SUV below, Agent Nora Bishop speaks into her radio with clipped precision. Target acquired, requesting permission to engage with extreme prejudice. The voice that responds carries authority from the highest levels of government. Permission granted, Agent Bishop. Eliminate both targets, make it look like gang violence, drug deal gone wrong. Bruce hears enough through open windows to understand the full scope of betrayal. This wasn't about ransom, never was about money. Someone in Washington wanted Bruce Lee dead, permanently, quietly, efficiently. The kidnapping was just the pretext to draw him into a trap where his death could be justified as collateral damage. But they made one critical mistake. They threatened Stella. Bruce backs his car away from the edge, builds up speed, racing toward the ramp. At maximum velocity, Stella braces herself, understanding without words what her husband intends. The car launches off the dock, flying through darkness for 3 seconds that feel like eternity. Gravity pulls them down toward concrete, toward impact. Toward the moment when physics meets determination, they land on the SUV's roof, crushing the vehicle like a tin can under a sledgehammer. The government agents inside never have time to scream. Bruce's car rolls off the destroyed SUV, lands hard but intact on four wheels. The engine sputters, but continues running. Bruce checks Stella for injuries, finds only bruises and determination burning in her eyes like stars. "We need to disappear," she says quietly, "for a while, until we understand who wanted us dead and why." Bruce nods, already calculating safe houses, false identities, people who owe favors from the old days, before Hollywood, before fame, before the world thought it knew who Bruce Lee really was. They drive into the Los Angeles night, leaving behind 7 bodies, 3 destroyed vehicles, and a warehouse full of evidence that will never see daylight. Somewhere in Washington, a phone rings in an office where decisions are made that reshape the world. A voice that answers listens to the report of failure with growing fury. Bruce Lee was supposed to die tonight, quietly, efficiently, permanently. Instead, he's proven once again why some men cannot be killed by ordinary means. The hunt will continue with different players, different methods, different stakes, but for now, Bruce and Stella have won another battle in a war they never chose to fight. 6 hours until dawn, 6 hours to plan their next move in a game where the rules change with each hand played. The warrior sleeps, but never deeply. Never completely, never without dreams of violence. Yet to come, dawn breaks over Los Angeles, casting pale light through the windows of a safe house hidden in the hills above Malibu, where Bruce and Stella sit in silence, watching the sun paint the sky the color of hope. Stella's sedation has finally worn off completely, her mind sharp, her memory clear, the nightmare hours replaying in vivid detail. She remembers the window opening in their bedroom, professional hands lifting her with surgical precision. She remembers the needles sliding into her arm, consciousness fading like a light being dimmed, but mostly she remembers waking up in the warehouse to find Bruce standing over 4 dead bodies, transformation complete from teacher to weapon to savior. The news reports begin at sunrise, local stations picking up the story. 7 bodies found in San Pedro warehouse district, apparent gang violence, federal agencies moving quickly to control the narrative, spinning lies into truth into classified information. But Bruce knows the real story will never see daylight. Too many important people involved, too many secrets at stake. His phone rings, encrypted line, voice he recognizes immediately, Vaughn Wong, calling from his electronics shop. Voice tight with concern and fear. "Bruce, you need to know something important about last night." "What is it?" "The men who took Stella, they weren't just kidnappers, they were assassins hired by someone very high up the food chain." Vaughn's words confirm what Bruce already suspected. The kidnapping was never about money, always about elimination. He'd been monitoring government communications all night. Vaughn continues, "There's a classified operation called Project Dragons." In the name hits Bruce like a physical blow, understanding immediately the scope of betrayal. Someone in Washington has decided Bruce Lee represents a threat to national security. His influence, his philosophy, his ability to inspire people to think for themselves. They want him dead, not just physically, but his legacy destroyed, his teachings discredited, his memory erased. But why? Bruce asks, though he already knows the answer, because Vaughn says quietly, "You teach people to be strong, independent, unafraid of authority. In times like these, that makes you dangerous." Stella takes the phone from Bruce, her voice steady despite everything she's endured. "Vaughn, this is Stella. I need you to do something for me, anything. I want you to release everything you have on Project Dragons into every news outlet, every journalist, every blogger who will listen. But Stella, that will put you both in even more danger." "Good," she says with steel in her voice. "I want them to know we're not hiding anymore." Bruce looks at his wife with new respect, new understanding of the strength that lies beneath her gentle exterior. "She's right," he tells Vaughn. "It's time to bring this into the light." 3 hours later, the story breaks simultaneously across multiple platforms. Investigative journalists revealing classified documents, government assassination plots against American citizens. The headlines scream across television screens, newspaper front pages, internet feeds. Government plot to kill Bruce Lee, exposed federal agents involved in kidnapping. Project Dragons. Yendi, Arlene, public outrage, swift and overwhelming protests outside Government buildings demands for accountability investigations resignations by noon. Three high-ranking officials have stepped down pending congressional hearings by evening. The Attorney General announces a full investigation into government overreach. Bruce and Stella watch the news coverage from their safe house, seeing justice finally emerging from darkness, but they know the real victory isn't political, isn't public, isn't external. The real victory is sitting together on a simple couch holding hands. Watching truth triumph over lies. Bruce's phone rings again, this time a number he doesn't recognize. Mr. Lee, the voice says, this is Owen Lane from the Department of Justice. We would like to offer you and your wife full protection, witness relocation, new identities. Bruce looks at Stella, sees the answer in her eyes before she speaks. Thank you, Mr. Lane. But we don't need protection anymore. We need to go home. Bruce hangs up the phone, understanding that sometimes the greatest strength comes from refusing to run, to hide, to disappear. They pack their few belongings, leave the safe house, drive back toward Los Angeles, toward their real life, toward the future. They almost lost. The dojo waits exactly as they left it, sunlight streaming through windows, wooden floors polished to perfection. Students begin arriving for evening classes, faces showing relief, joy, gratitude that their teacher has returned. Bruce changes into his training clothes, steps onto the mat, begins the ancient forms that center his spirit, but now the movements carry new meaning, deeper purpose, harder truth. He teaches not just technique, but philosophy, not just fighting, but living, not just strength, but wisdom. The warrior and the teacher finally unified, no longer at war with each other. Stella sits in the corner, watching her husband become whole again, complete again, himself again. The nightmare is over, the hunt concluded, justice served, but more than that, love has triumphed over fear, truth over lies, light over darkness. Bruce Lee bows to his students, to his wife, to the life they've built together. The lesson begins a new 6 months. Later, Bruce Lee stands before a congressional hearing room packed with reporters, cameras, citizens seeking truth. The marble corridors of the Capitol echo with footsteps of justice, finally walking these halls where power once conspired in shadows. Congressman Layla Steele chairs the Oversight Committee, her voice carrying the weight of accountability as she reads from classified documents. Project Dragons, she announces, was conceived by individuals who viewed Mr. Lee's influence as a threat to their vision of America, where citizens don't question authority, don't think independently, don't believe in their own power to change the world. Bruce sits at the witness table, Stella beside him, their hands intertwined like roots of the same tree, drawing strength from shared soil. Behind them, the gallery filled with students from the dojo, fellow martial artists, ordinary people who understand that this hearing represents more than justice for one family. It represents the principle that no government has the right to silence voices that inspire hope, courage, independence. The lead investigator, Agent Elijah Cross, takes the stand, his testimony damning those who authorized the operation. I was ordered, he states clearly, to eliminate Bruce Lee and make it appear accidental. When I refused, I was told that patriotism sometimes requires difficult choices. The room erupts in angry murmurs, citizens finally understanding how close they came to losing someone who represented the best of what America could be. Stella rises to speak, her voice carrying across the chamber, like music, like prayer, like truth finally given voice. My husband, she says, teaches people to be strong, not violent, confident, not aggressive, independent, not rebellious. He shows them that true power comes from within, not from weapons, not from fear, not from controlling others. The very qualities that make America great. Her words resonate beyond the marble walls, beyond the cameras, beyond the moment itself. Television broadcasts carry her testimony around the world to places where people still dream of freedom. Social media explodes with messages of support, solidarity, understanding that this story belongs to everyone who has ever been told to be smaller, quieter, less themselves. Bruce finally speaks, his voice calm as still water, deep as mountain roots. I never wanted to be a symbol, he says. I only wanted to teach people to find their own strength, their own way, their own truth. But if my story can help others understand that love is stronger than fear, that truth is more powerful than lies, that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they refuse to surrender, then perhaps the darkness we survived was worth the light it revealed. The hearing concludes with recommendations for systemic reform, congressional oversight, protection for whistleblowers, but the real victory happens afterward, in quiet moments when individuals decide to stand taller, speak louder, live braver. Bruce and Stella return to their dojo where students wait eager to learn not just techniques, but philosophy. The classes are different now, deeper, richer, more honest. Bruce teaches the same, forms the same principles, the same movements that have flowed through generations of warriors, but now students understand that martial arts isn't about fighting, it's about becoming unbreakable, in spirit unshakable, in purpose unstoppable, in love. The dojo walls display new editions, photographs from the Congressional Hearing, newspaper headlines proclaiming truth triumphant, but most importantly, letters from people around the world sharing their own stories of survival, resistance, transformation. A teenager from Detroit who stood up to bullies, a teacher from Kansas who refused to compromise her principles, a factory worker from Ohio who organized his colleagues for better conditions. Each letter proof that Bruce's story rippled outward like stones thrown in still water. Evening falls over the dojo, students departing into the Los Angeles night, carrying lessons that extend far beyond self-defense. Bruce and Stella stand together in the empty training space, surrounded by the echoes of effort, dedication, growth. What would you do? Bruce asks, repeating the question that began this journey if everything you built was threatened. Stella smiles, her answer carrying the wisdom earned through fire. I would remember. She says that some things cannot be destroyed by force, love, truth, courage, the human spirit. These survive every assault, emerge stronger from every trial. Bruce nods, understanding, finally complete. The warrior and the teacher, the husband and the legend, no longer separate identities, but facets of the same diamond, reflecting light in all directions. Turn off the dojo lights, lock the doors, walk hand in hand toward home. Behind them, the darkness holds no threats, only possibilities for tomorrow's lessons. The hunt is over, the truth revealed, justice served, but the real victory continues every day. In every person who chooses strength over weakness, love over fear, light over darkness, the flame burns eternal, past from teacher to student, generation to generation, heart to heart. This is how the world changes, one soul at a time, one choice at a time, one act of courage at a time. The story ends, but the legend lives forever. If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe.